In a mansion where silence echoed louder than conversation, where every surface gleamed with wealth, a single bruise told a story no one was supposed to see. He was a billionaire, sharp, composed, untouchable. She was his maid, quiet, dutiful, almost invisible. But one morning, sunlight revealed more than dust on marble. It revealed pain. And when he looked past the surface, what he found would not only change her life, but awaken a memory he thought he'd buried forever. This isn't just a story of wealth and wounds. It's a story about what we choose to see. And what happens when someone finally decides to say, enough. The morning sun filtered gently through the tall French doors, casting golden patches on the polished kitchen floor. The clink of porcelain echoed softly as Mary placed a delicate cup of chamomile tea on the marble counter. Her hand steady enough to serve, but trembling just beneath the surface. Across the kitchen island, Jonathan Hale, billionaire investor and household name, barely glanced up from his documents. His suit was immaculate, his hair silver blonde and combed with military precision. "Thank you, Mary," he said, his voice calm, precise, detached. Mary offered a faint smile, the kind that practiced itself in mirrors. "You're welcome, sir," she replied, already turning to leave, eager to vanish into the quiet sanctuary of the laundry room before anyone looked too closely. But fate has a cruel sense of timing. Just as she turned, a shaft of sunlight struck her cheek, and for one brief, unforgiving second, it revealed what the shadows had tried to conceal, a deep purple bruise, blooming just beneath her left eye. Jonathan paused mid-sip. His gaze shifted. His eyes narrowed, not with anger but something colder, something sharper. "Mary," he said slowly, setting his cup down, "what happened to your face?" She froze, breath caught, spine rigid, but she didn't turn around. "It's nothing, sir. I bumped into a cabinet yesterday. Just clumsy, I guess." But Jonathan wasn't convinced. He had learned long ago that bruises never come with believable stories. And clumsy accidents don't leave a person afraid to face the light. Jonathan rose from his stool, slowly, deliberately, as if standing too fast might shatter the fragile silence. "Turn around, Mary." His voice, still calm, held a new edge, not of command but of concern sharpened by suspicion. She hesitated. Her fingers gripped the edge of the counter as though letting go would unravel everything she had managed to hold together. "Please, sir. I'm fine." "Mary," he said again, firmer now, not a boss summoning his employee, but a man demanding truth from someone who mattered. Reluctantly she turned. And what Jonathan saw made his heart drop. The bruise was worse than he imagined, angry and swollen beneath her eye, a faint cut at the corner of her lip. As she adjusted her sleeve, a second mark peeked out, a harsh red welt blooming across her forearm. He didn't speak. Not at first. Not until the cold fury in his chest gave way to something deeper, a protective instinct he never expected to feel. "That's not from a cabinet," he said quietly. Mary's eyes brimmed with tears, but she shook her head. "Please, sir, don't ask. I just need this job. That's all." "You've worked here for 3 years," he replied, his voice softer now. "You've never asked for anything. You've never complained. You don't deserve this." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "It's my husband," she whispered, almost inaudibly. "He doesn't want me working here. Says I embarrass him. That I make him look weak." Her voice cracked as she looked away, shame pooling in her expression like another bruise. And for the first time in a long time, Jonathan, a man used to negotiating billion-dollar deals, felt powerless. Not because he didn't have the means to help, but because he knew that sometimes fear builds higher walls than money ever could break down. Jonathan stared at Mary, not with pity but with a quiet intensity that said, "I see you now. And I won't look away." "How long has he been hurting you?" Mary dropped her gaze. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. "Please don't get involved. If he finds out I told you anything, he'll come after me. I can't lose this job. I have a son." Jonathan blinked. "You have a child?" She nodded faintly. "He's 7. Lives with my sister. I send her half of everything I earn. If my husband found out, he'd—" Her sentence broke, dissolved into trembling silence. Just then a sudden loud knock shattered the moment. Bang, bang, bang. Mary flinched so violently the teacup rattled on its saucer. Her eyes darted to the front door like a deer scenting the hunter. Jonathan noticed. The panic in her breath. The way her shoulders curled inward. "It's him, isn't it?" he asked, voice low. She didn't need to reply. The knocking grew louder. Faster. Angrier. Then came the voice, deep, furious, slurring through rage. "Mary. Open the door. Now. Her knees buckled slightly as she pressed against the counter. He's angry I'm late. He always says I don't listen. Jonathan stepped forward, calm on the outside, storm on the inside, and placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. Stay here. I'll handle it. Mary's eyes widened in panic. No, please. Don't make him angrier. He always waits until later. When no one's watching. Jonathan looked into her eyes, and what he saw wasn't weakness. It was exhaustion, the kind that comes from years of hiding in plain sight. He pulled out his phone, voice low and decisive. Not this time. Outside, the pounding continued. Inside, a reckoning had begun. Before Jonathan could finish dialing security, chaos arrived early. Hey, you can't go in there. A guard's voice rang out from the front entrance, sharp and startled. A moment later, crash. A violent scuffle. Shouts. Grunts. A muffled cry. Then footsteps. Heavy, fast, and furious, echoing across the marble floors. The kitchen door burst open. A man in his mid-30s stormed in, disheveled, breath sour with rage. His shirt clung to sweat-soaked skin, and his eyes were bloodshot from sleepless nights and too many bottles. Mary's breath hitched in her throat. She stumbled back, her hands rising instinctively to shield her bruised face. You, he growled, pointing at her like a weapon. What did I tell you about working for him? Are you deaf? Jonathan didn't move. He didn't have to. His silence was louder than any threat. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway, one nursing a bleeding lip. He shoved past the gate, sir, the taller one said breathlessly. Took us off guard. But Jonathan's eyes were only on the man before him. The man who had turned fear into Mary's shadow. You've embarrassed me enough, the intruder spat. Acting like some fancy made for rich people. You think you're better than me now? Mary shook her head silently, tears glinting but not falling. Her blouse trembled with every breath. Then Jonathan moved, just a step forward, but it shifted the entire room. That's far enough, he said, his voice like steel wrapped in ice. The man snarled. Stay out of this. She's my wife. Jonathan's tone didn't change. You lost the right to call her that the moment you raised your hand to her. Rage lit the man's face like fire meeting oil. He lunged. Don't you dare tell me what to. But he didn't get far. With surprising speed, Jonathan intercepted, grabbing the man's arm and twisting it behind his back. The intruder dropped to his knees with a grunt of pain. You want to hit someone? Jonathan hissed, eyes dark and calm. Try me. The guards moved in. One of them pulled out a phone. Call the police, Jonathan ordered, not even looking up. He's trespassing, assaulting my staff, and violating every decent thing a man is supposed to be. As the cuffs were called for and the sirens began their distant wail, Mary stood frozen, watching the man who had haunted her life finally brought to his knees, not by violence but by conviction. And beside her, the man in the tailored suit had just proven. There's nothing more powerful than calm strength standing up to unchecked cruelty. The sound of sirens broke through the quiet like the first crack in winter ice, sharp, shattering, and inevitable. Jonathan stepped back, breathing evenly as 2 uniformed officers entered the foyer, their boots slick with urgency. He motioned calmly toward the man still kneeling, restrained but still seething. This is her husband, he said evenly. He broke in, assaulted my staff, and has a long history of abusing her. She's terrified of him. The officers didn't question. One moved to cuff the man while the other began taking statements. You can't do this, the man roared, still struggling. She's my wife. Jonathan's reply was swift, measured, and piercing. Not anymore. The door closed behind the officers with a heavy click, one that sounded more like a verdict than a lock. But in the stillness that followed, Mary collapsed into the nearest chair. Her body, having survived on adrenaline alone, finally gave out. Tears fell, quiet at first, then in waves. Her hands trembled as they covered her face as if trying to block out everything. The past, the present, even the relief. Jonathan crouched beside her, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. Mary, it's over. He's not coming back. But her head shook slowly, side to side. You don't understand, she whispered. He always finds a way. A way to get in even when the door's locked. Even when he's not supposed to. Jonathan exhaled. Not in frustration but in recognition. Because sometimes the worst part of escaping the cage is realizing your mind stayed inside it. He didn't offer empty comfort. No promises he couldn't keep. Just truth, steady, firm, and resolute. Then we won't give him away. I'll get you a restraining order. I'll find you a safe place. One he'll never reach. Not for you. And not for your son. Mary lifted her face, her eyes swollen with tears, but holding a flicker of disbelief. Why are you doing this? She asked, voice cracking. You don't even know me. Jonathan looked at her, really looked, and for the first time she saw something different in his gaze. Not pity. Not guilt. Conviction. Because I've spent years building companies, numbers, empires, but none of it means anything if I can't protect the people under my roof. He stood up and extended his hand. Let's go, Mary. There's still light left today. And you deserve to see it. And for the first time in years she reached out, not to serve, not to shield, but to be lifted. Weeks passed. The mansion returned to its quiet rhythms, the clink of porcelain, the shuffle of papers, the soft buzz of ambient jazz in the background. But for Jonathan Hale, something had changed. He still closed million-dollar deals before breakfast. Still walked past towering glass windows and marble floors. But each morning as he passed the laundry room, he glanced at the empty corner where Mary used to fold linens, quietly humming to herself. She hadn't returned. He hadn't expected her to. Then one Thursday morning, as rain tapped gently against the windows, his assistant entered with the day's correspondence. But one envelope stood out, no sender, hand-addressed, sealed with care. Jonathan recognized the handwriting instantly. Inside was a simple letter, written in blue ink on lined stationery, the kind children use in school. Dear Mr. Hale, I don't have words strong enough for what you did. But I want you to know, my son smiled yesterday. A real smile. Not the kind he forces to make me feel better. He likes his new school. He says he wants to be someone who helps. He doesn't flinch when a car backfires anymore. As for me, I'm learning how to be someone without fear. It's strange, but it's good. The safe house helped me file the papers. And soon the divorce will be final. Thank you not for saving me, but for reminding me I was worth saving. With quiet strength, Mary. Jonathan didn't speak for several minutes after reading it. He simply set the letter on his desk and looked out the window. The rain outside had slowed. A faint beam of sunlight cut through the clouds, landing on the corner of the room where Mary used to stand. He exhaled slowly. The world had not changed. It was still ruthless, loud, and unfair. But somewhere out there, a woman had found her voice again. And a boy had remembered how to laugh. And sometimes, that was enough. Sometimes the greatest acts of courage don't come from headlines or heroics, but from a moment of clarity, when one human simply refuses to look away. Jonathan Hale didn't change the world that morning, but he changed hers. And for a boy who thought silence was safer than speaking, he gave him back a mother, a future, and the freedom to dream again. In a world that often rewards power, he chose compassion. He proved that being wealthy means nothing if we are poor in empathy. So let this be a reminder. Behind every polite smile, every "I'm fine," there may be a story untold. And sometimes all it takes to change that story is someone who dares to ask and stay long enough to listen. Speech balloon, if this story moved you, share it. Because somewhere, someone needs to know. They are not alone. And they are worth being seen. Until next time, stay kind, stay human, and keep your eyes open. Because one moment of seeing clearly can save a life. This is such an amazing story. Dear friends, if you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There is still a lot of interesting things to come.